Mike Detillier, a huge part of our program. Mike, I hope you're having a great afternoon. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.
You think it's that way for LSU, too, that this rivalry that has been able to build up here in Tuscaloosa and these two teams getting together?
Yeah, it's been that way since the moment Nick Saban took the job in Alabama. And it was even before. LSU didn't have much success against Alabama, certainly as a kid growing up, late 60s, 70s. Had very little success, when the Bear was there, going up against Charlie Mack. And, it's sort of same turn again. But it's really cranked up because of, Nick being here. And he built this program at LSU. No matter how you want to cut it, this was a middle-of-the-road program in the SEC before Nick Saban took over at LSU. And he built it into a national power. No question about that. And then, him going to Alabama and what he's done there, unprecedented. And, he's going to be the greatest college coach of all time. So there's a fear factor. It's a hatred for Alabama, but it's also fear. And I knew that from the moment it was announced in the Louisiana Superdome. LSU was playing in the Sugar Bowl, and that announcement went out, and you heard the reaction from LSU fans, and it was more of a fear reaction. They knew what he was going to do there. They didn't think it to this extent, but they knew he was going to win and win big. And so, yeah, it's revved up. And O.J. Howard made a great comment when the Saints played Tampa Bay a year ago, and he was asking the difference between college and the pros, and he was like, practice here is like playing against LSU. There's nothing you can compare it to. You're going up against, these are best of the best. And I thought it was a great comment from him. That's the type of deal it is. A lot of respect between the players. Fans, dislike one another, and I get it. But a bottom line is everybody's looking to catch Nick, including the team he built in Louisiana. He built LSU up. Come on. I got some of them that try to tell me about, that Jerry DiNardo did this and that. Jerry DiNardo, come on. You got to be kidding me. You're trying to rewrite history. But really, it's, everybody's trying to catch the best of the best right now, and that's what Saban is.
Mike, I want your thoughts because I said this prior. You're a straight shooter. You're a guy that's always been a great favorite of our program. Let me ask you about Devin White. Did you think it was targeting?
Hell no. It was a horse hockey call, and I've disagreed with that rule since they put it in. I just think that it's going to be either one way or another, and I've got relatives that are officials. They dislike the rule also, but because of their jobs, they got to call it. There is no evidence that was helmet to helmet on there, and no one has shown me a picture showing that. And so I think it was a bad call by the official. I could understand him making the call on the field. My thing is the replay guy, how could he confirm that? This has been broke down almost like Zapruder-like here in Louisiana, and yet I've not seen evidence of that. I thought it was a bad call, but, you got to live with it. It is what it is in today's world. It goes to show that rule has to be changed. I wrote a story on that a couple years ago. In essence, you got to take that rule and almost do it like a running into the punter, roughing the punter type rule. There are certain shots we all know that somebody's after another player and uses the crown of the helmet and really goes after him. Come on, that wasn't that type of play at all. He pops him right up front with his hands up against the chest. And, again, inertia getting involved here. You're going forward. He's going forward. You pop him, and the helmets come real close. If they touch or not, we broke it down TV-wise about as close as you can get, and yet we still haven't seen that touch. But it's really close. So I understand the official on the field making that call. My thing is, how can a replay guy in that short a period of time, we've spent, that a long a time trying to do it, make that confirmation. So it was a house hockey call. Whatever you want to break it down to, it's a bad call. I feel bad for Devin, him not being able to play for a half. It would have been a Mount Everest climb for LSU to beat Alabama with Devin White. So now you're out and, you're not having him for a half. So you almost got to treat it almost like an injury. You got to move on from it. And LSU's got to move on from it. And that's what Coach O has tried to, tell his players. Hey, listen, guys, no matter what we think it's unfair, you got to move on. And all of us complaining ain't going to do any good. So it is what it is. I think it's a bad rule. Not in general. I think the rule's fine, but you got to modify that rule, Ryan, because even it getting dropped against the Alabama defender hitting Tennessee's quarterback, come on, that's a clean play. That's a clean play out on the field. But, again, everybody under the umbrella of safety, which really that means just one thing. It's all about litigation. Nobody wants to get sued. The SEC, and they're going to cover their back on this. Man, we ain't taking and they're not going to modify no rule middle of the season. So, it is what it is. And I wish Devin was able to play, but if you're asking me if Devin White's difference would mean that this game's closer or not, again, I said it before and I'll say it again. With Devin White, it was Mount Everest. Well, it's even a little higher peak than that now without having him for a half.
Do you think it impacts the game as far as the outcome? I mean, do you think it really hurts?
No. I think, listen, he's a great player, but I've always questioned, even since watching the first couple games of Alabama, how LSU to win, to keep this game even close, they'd have to play small ball. They'd have to have a situation where Alabama turns the ball over, which they haven't done, throwing it with Tua, and them being able to score. I don't see how LSU can keep up, if Alabama comes out like they have in the games this season, just kind of blaring away. And without K'Lavon Chaisson rushing the quarterback, LSU's pass rush has not been anything more than above average. So it would have been tough. And I don't think anybody in college football is going to beat Alabama. As long as Tua is healthy, he puts you at a level that no team in the Southeast Conference has went up against. Even those, with those great defenses at Alabama, when you have a quarterback that can sling it like he can, it is going to be a real difficult time. And they hit you with the tsunami early. Him coming out, whipping the ball. And, what they score before you know it, it's 20 to 24 to nothing, and you haven't blinked an eye yet. So that type of game, LSU is not going to be able to go, point for point with. It's not. For them to have a chance to keep this even close, they got to play a little small ball, and they got to get some help, turnover-wise to do it. And even Coach O, I mean, listen, I know he always is confident about things, but he knows he's up against a player. He's the best player in the country in Tua right now. And no question about it. He's the best player in the country, and I don't know that LSU can keep up point for point for what Alabama's going to be able to put on the board.
Mike, let me go into the conversation, though. When we talk about Coach O, it's another week. It's another week. I mean, going into the month of November, I would have loved to have seen some odds on LSU being fourth best team in the country. I mean, think about that. I mean, we could have won as much as one of those guys in South Carolina won last night with that $1.6 billion Mega Million lottery ticket. I mean, if we'd have said that'd been in the top four, there's no way anybody saw this coming.
Listen, no one, and even he will joke around about it. He didn't see it either. You know, I think if you put him on the lie detector, he now more than anyone, because Ryan, I've told you this, and also the audience listening. He long told me we're going to be a lot better than people think we're going to be. You know, like he said, there's 6 wins in a season and all, because he was laughing because, you know, one of the national guys came out, they're going to be a 6-6 team. And, you know, I'm not going to tell you exactly what he told me, but it wasn't pleasant. But listen, he knew they were going to be a pretty good football team. But at this stage, I don't think even him and his wildest dreams thought they would be at this stage playing Alabama with that schedule and with so much uncertainty on his football team. He didn't know exactly what he was going to get out of Joe Burrow. He thought what he had was a really good quarterback, very bright, tough kid, was going to make some plays for him. But he wasn't exactly sure. He didn't know about Cole Tracy at kicker. He hoped that what he had saw in practice would translate in the game, and that's happened. But it's also been the development of his coaching staff with players. And Nick Brossette being one of the top runners in the Southeast Conference at running back. He's been a career backup at LSU. Now, again, look who he was playing behind, but still, we had never seen anything like this. Justin Jefferson, a 2-star recruit in the state of Louisiana, has beat out all these 4- and 5-star guys to become their top wide receiver. The development of Grant Delpit, who's a really good football player as a freshman. He wasn't the top-rated safety that they recruited 2 years ago. It was Jacoby Stevens from Tennessee. He was the guy. And now Delpit has become not only an all-SEC player, he's an All-American. And when he told me back in August, Mike, Grant Delpit's going to be something special. And he said, I'm just telling you, I've never given more latitude to a player in the secondary than Delpit. He said, well, maybe, he said, let me take that back. He said, I did a couple years with one guy, Troy Polamalu, when I had him at USC. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And he's like, nope. He said, I'm just telling you, he's not good. He got a chance to be great. 2 weeks before the season started, they didn't even know they'd have Christian Fulton at cornerback. And he's turned into a really good starting cornerback opposite Greedy Williams. He didn't know about any of that to start the season. So, yeah, they've had a different offensive line combination almost every week because of either a suspension or injuries. And it's just been a magical run for them up to this point in time. So what he's done and what his coaching staff has done, and Steve's done a fantastic job too, calling plays on the offensive side of the football with a lot of unknowns, mysteries involved with the offense. We all knew about how good Dave Aranda is and what he's done defensively, and they were dominant. That's the worst part of the Mississippi State game. Instead of being able to celebrate what you did, and, man, Mississippi State is one-dimensional as one-dimensional can be on offense. It was pouring down rain in that football game. It almost felt in the locker room like they had lost because of the White issue late in the game. But, no, Dave could coach big time. And I just think I go back to the one thing he told me the day after he got the job. And he was like, listen, big guy, I'm going to tell you something. He said, for us to catch Alabama, yeah, we need the quarterback. But he said, where we got to get really good is along the offensive and defensive lines. He said that Alabama's got talent and depth that we don't have right now. And he said, that's where I got to start building this offensive, defensive line, and depth. And I think he's a year away. I think he's a year away from having that type team that can go toe-to-toe with Alabama.
Mike, let me ask you, I want you to just take your own eyes. You've watched a lot of football. Where would Tua Tagovailoa rank on the quarterback skill set that you've seen in the SEC?
He's the most complete quarterback I've seen, certainly in the last 25 years. I think that this league has not seen anybody that talented a passer since Peyton Manning. And I know one thing. I told it to Archie, and he started to laugh, and he was like, Mike, I know one thing. Tua can sure move a lot better than Peyton could at Tennessee. And he just looked at me, and we both shook our heads, and he's like, listen, I sure can't argue with you. And I think that he is in that realm of player. He is Peyton Manning-like in what he's able to do throwing a football. But he's got mobility skills Peyton never had, and that's what makes him a special guy. That he's the total combination, Ryan. I can't compare him to anybody because you're looking at a body of work of a little over a half a season, and this is a guy that has not thrown an interception in this year, has not played in the fourth quarter. It's unbelievable. I can't think of another quarterback, and I'm not even talking about Southeast Conference. I'm talking about doing this in scouting players. I can't think of another guy that's even come close to that. As a sophomore, it's remarkable. I think Al Davis used to have a comment about a tilt-the-field player. And he said that about Joe Namath. He said, Joe was a tilt-the-field player. Well, Tua's a tilt-the-field player, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you got to remember, when we don't really see a lot of offensive explosion here in Tuscaloosa, and it's taken some adjustment to get used to it. I mean, we're kind of like we're hesitant. We don't know what we're getting into, and it's like a lot of comments this week from a lot of different people that are a lot older than I am that have watched a lot more football, and they say that it's clearly the best offense that we've ever had in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I agree, and even talking to Ed about it, and he's told me that, hey, just unbelievable to watch him, and what they're able to do. And he says, he's so smart with the football, and he uses that slot receiver so well. And he says, a lot of times, when us growing up, when you had a quarterback that would get in trouble, he would try to get the ball out in the flat, either to the running back or the tight end. And he said, he does use that, but he said, man, their offense is built so well that his utilization of the slot receiver is just remarkable. Because he said, that's not normally what you would see, of a quarterback that's his first option and his big option, and he gets into football. So you're watching something special here. I mean, folks, when you watch Tua play, it is really, really something special. And so as great a season as LSU has had, and I don't think, even Coach O, I think if you put him on the lie detector, he wouldn't have thought they'd be 7-1 at this stage. They're going up against a guy that they have nobody's in his zip code as a passer and an improvisational player out of the pocket. And that's going to be some pressure points on LSU. And you can just cover for so long. As LSU's got, with Greedy and with Christian Fulton and with Delpit, you can only cover for so long. Then they're going to break free. And I think the most astounding part for me is his decision-making process. For a young quarterback to know where to go with the football, Ryan, you might see that from a senior who's played a few years, To see it for a guy who hasn't played no more than a little bit more than half a season is just astounding to me. And I cannot. We had a discussion on ESPN about quarterbacks, and all of us sort of looked at one another. I can't remember anyone hitting the scene with that type impact as a passer this early in his career.
Mike Detillier, WWL 870 does TV, radio work in that area. A guy that understands the NFL level, the talent that it takes to get to Sunday afternoon, and we'll certainly talk about it next week. Mike, as always, thank you again for your time here in Tuscaloosa. It's always fun to break down the game that we love so much here in T-Town. Thank you for being a part of our show.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it, buddy.